Hello and welcome to the SBP podcast, The Voice of Mobile Film. I'm your host, Susie Botello, and this is episode 25. So we're approaching the International Mobile Film Festival in San Diego, and as we do that, we're going to have to shift our time and our effort to organizing it. We work on this all year long, but right now, imagine a car with manual transmission, okay? So we take off on first, we gain speed on second, we climb some hills on third gear, and then we've been in a constant fourth gear for a while now. But now we're in the fifth. We're hitting the freeway speeds on our film festival, and that means that it's time to shift that to that film festival. So in this episode, it's probably going to be the last one before our film festival, which takes place on April 28th and 29th. So sorry to have to tell you that, but we really need to shift our gears. And but don't fret. We also have a podcast after the film festival, which will feature participants from the film festival who are actually coming to San Diego to be a part of it. So we plan to record that at the venue in the green room. So don't unsubscribe. If you haven't, do subscribe, and that way you won't miss that episode and all our upcoming episodes, which we have planned. Now, you might want to get tickets, and if you do, you can go straight to our website at www.internationalmobilefilmfestival.com, or you can also get there by typing sbp.cc on your web browser. Now, if you like discounts, if you become a patron at any level, you'll receive discounts to get tickets. And all you have to do is sign up and subscribe to our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/SBP podcast. That's pretty simple, right? So for this episode, we went to the Steampunk Gaslight Gathering here in San Diego, where the Star Wars Steampunk Universe group hosted a panel. Hot Nerd Girl leads that group, which was a part of our film festival's red carpet event last year. And they're coming again this year to be a part of that as well on the red carpet. And we're also going to talk a little bit about the cosplay category with them live at the film festival, and a little bit about, we asked that question to her here in this episode because she's actually our guest here, along with Erin Nabus, who is our brand ambassador. But see, Erin is also co-hosting the Hall H Show podcast. And so we had just finished recording a podcast for his Hall H Show podcast when we immediately followed up with this recording. But this is part one of this episode. There are two parts to this podcast. So the first part is with Erin and Tracy, Hot Nerd Girl. And the second part of this episode is a compilation with some of the guests who will be attending our film festival in San Diego this month. Now, you can listen to all the episodes anytime by going to our website where all the episodes are listed. And you can go there by going to www.sbppodcast.studio, or you can go to our blog, the sbppodcast.wordpress.com, and on the menu on top of the page, if you click on SBP Podcast Mobile Film on that title, you will find all our episodes, all our shows. They're all listed there, and they're all titled so you'll know what you're listening to before you click on them, okay? So let's go and have some fun now. Welcome to the SBP podcast, The Voice of Mobile Film. We are here at, what is the name of this event?
Gaslight Gathering.
I'm still punked out.
For the 30th time.
It's a steampunk event. And we came here because we thought it'd be really cool to have podcasts in a really cool location. But our brand ambassador hooked us up on this because of our guest, Tracy Hot Nerd Girl. Woot woot! In the hizzow. Tracy was in the International Mobile Film Festival last year. She shot a little film with her phone, but she didn't shoot it because she wanted to be a part of the film festival. She did it because I invited her and the group, the Star Wars Steampunk Universe, to come and escort filmmakers on the red carpet. And so I just got this, I feel like I just had a huge cup of coffee all of a sudden. It's like we're talking to the SBP podcast with Tracy.
Oh.
And
you guys make me feel so special.
And I met Tracy through Erin. It was a year ago. Mm-hmm. We did a podcast where Anthony De La Cruz, Tracy Hot Nerd Girl, Alex Benedicto, and Aaron Nabuz from the Hall H Show, and I was in it too. And that was his podcast. That was before the SBP podcast. And it was a lot of fun. But I just wanted to introduce this podcast with this in this event here. We're just going to do a short little podcast because we're here at this event, and we can't just take an hour here. So I wanted to let everybody know that our film festival is happening here on April 28th and 29th. We have a special new category that we're going to introduce at the film festival and talk a little bit about. And we're inviting Tracy and the Star Wars Steampunk Universe to come and escort filmmakers again this year on the red carpet, but also so they can be there to answer questions, from people about this. And I wanted to know from you, what do you think about opening this category? I hate to put you on the spot here, but about this category of cosplay. What would you say to our listeners about it, the opportunity?
Well, I think it's a natural fit. I think a lot of people in the cosplay community already make short films at conventions. They'll do, everything from, like little mock battles and stuff. I just filmed a couple of cosplayers who were doing Killmonger and Black Panther, and they were just like jumping at each other over and over again, letting people film it, and made a quick little slow-mo video out of that. So I think in our very first where Star Wars Steampunk Universe was born was at Star Wars Celebration a few years ago, and one of the photographers made a quick little video of people kind of like getting ready to square off and then like walking towards the camera. And I've been a part of people just doing little things like Gregorius Geek. I don't know if you know him, Chris Monafiletto, and he does a disco stormtrooper. Oh. And so he wanted to do a quick little Saturday Night Live, walking down the street, and when he checks out the chick, and then like keeps walking.
That's cool.
And I was dressed as Steampunk Princess Leia that day, and so I participated in his little video. So they're doing it already. So it's a natural fit to do it for the festival, just creating a little bit more of a storyline instead of making it kind of off the cuff.
Yeah, you had a panel and you were actually talking about that, and I was just like wiggling around in my seat because
I talked about that.
Yeah, well, you talked about.
I never know what I'm talking about.
No, you not specifically that, but you were talking about the storytelling aspect. You and Lando.
Oh, mm-hmm.
Yeah, you guys were talking about the storytelling aspect of cosplayers and steampunk.
Oh, yeah, today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I was like, you were telling them, to put photos and things like that and give their business cards for charities and things. And I was just in my head going, this is a perfect opportunity for them to create a video sharing their story, even if it's sort of done to promote them, to share their story so that they can do that. So when they give their website to somebody, or whatever, even a QR code, here, scan this and watch my video, and people can watch that as well. And so that's what I was thinking. There's so many different videos, musical videos and even documentaries documenting the process that cosplayers go through and their backstories. I'm sure there are some struggles, at the life is real, basically, for a cosplayer. So I thought that would be, I don't know, an opportunity as well.
Yeah.
So,
I concur.
All right, that's
you're not going to find a steampunker who does not have a character and a backstory to that character. That's
I
part
met
of
some
the
people
world.
today, and they were just showing me how they made some of the things that they made, the artifacts that they made, and there was a story behind each one.
Yep.
And just one of the ladies that was explaining each little piece, when I really got intricate, I guess I was really curious about this stuff, and she would say, oh, well, he made this part here, and I don't know what was going on through his mind when he was making it, because they're so creative, But it's good to get that from people, and I know the world would love to see it. And I know that cosplay, right, is a worldwide phenomenon. It's not just here, And I think because the film festival is international, I would love to be able to share that with the whole world, starting with our film festival. And Aaron has been
Why are you laughing when you look at me?
Because he's been really supportive of our film festival all year, and he's been working so hard. We just finished a podcast with him on the Hall H show, I just wanted to publicly thank you for everything that you're doing as our brand ambassador and as our friend.
Well, thank you very much, and I relish this opportunity because, as you are the voice of mobile film, we are the voice of independent creators, and I see a kinship in that. We're trying to give people who sort of need that spotlight, that extra push, to sort of have that opportunity to tell their stories or to share their stories. Sorry. I know on the last podcast we made a difference between the storytelling and story sharing. So, and I think that's a really important distinction or difference that we point out. But I think going along your cosplay idea and how you want to incorporate more into the festival, like you said, cosplay is such a huge thing now. And as we told Tim on his podcast, On the Capes, I thought it was a good opportunity for him to sort of share his cosplaying journey and document what he's been doing, because not only will it be sort of good for him, but the stuff that he does might be beneficial for other people as well. And you see it online at YouTube and everything, but the fact that you can do so, with your mobile phone, anytime, anywhere, basically, and just start sharing your stories.
Yeah, there's so much power in this phone. In this podcast, I plan to share with our listeners some of the stories that I've had during the podcast with the filmmakers that are part of this film festival again this year, and who haven't been. And one of the things that that this phone does is so powerful. We do hear in the media about how we're becoming addicted to our phones and to social media and things like that. But that, to me, is just, it's like looking at two sides of a cone, where one, or the maybe, the whole yin yang thing, where it's like you got one that's on the negative, that one's on the positive. Well, that's always with everything, but there's a lot of positivity with the phone, because the power of sharing stories is really, really what connects us as human beings. We just have a better way of doing it now, as opposed to waiting for somebody to show up on our cave and see the drawings we made on a cave wall, or to picking up a book and being able to sit down and read the entire book, or to come to our house and listen to us telling stories. Filmmaking has a very unique way of sharing stories, where it really can consume us, and it can grab us and put us in a whole different world, like Star Wars, your world, or steampunk stories, or anything like that. And I believe that I've seen documentaries where I didn't even know what it would be like to be someone with, say, a particular disease or something like that, or someone who's been bullied or any of that stuff, unless I had watched it in a documentary. You know, what would it be like to live in a third world country, say, unless I'd watched that movie, not even a documentary that depicts what life was like there. And so, I don't know, I just really think that I love the idea of this film festival being open to all ages, all people, all human beings, whether you're in the world or floating out in a rocket somewhere, you know, in outer space, sharing the stories with everyone, because that's how we're going to connect. That's how we stay human. That's how we stay real, is through our stories. And that's just kind of, you know, the power that is. It's amazing, and it fits in our pocket, you know, so...
And I think with how the internet sort of has, you know, broken down barriers, I think the technology within the smartphone has sort of done the same thing too, and it allows anybody from, like, you know, like you've been talking about, any background, to sort of, if they have a compelling story, to make a movie.
Yeah, and you never know where those things go. There's a lot of people who will submit a film to our film festival, and they're like, I don't know, and then they win. And they're like, oh my God, I actually won, you know. And oh my God, my film got accepted to like 20 other film festivals, you know, or something. Maybe not that many, but still, I mean, you don't know until you try. You know, you just got to keep putting one foot in front of the other. Tracy...
She puts one foot.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, usually. And on the red carpet, you're going to do that. I segue. Are you excited about going there this year and doing the red carpet event?
Oh yeah, of course. It's a fantastic event.
What
we always have a lot of fun.
What was it like for you the first time, like last year? What did you notice?
Well, last year we were kind of teamed up. We each had a filmmaker that we were teamed up with. So, you know, it's kind of, you know, you're rooting for each other, and you're rooting for your filmmaker, and you know, very quickly you have an instant loyalty to your filmmaker. So, yeah, and then to see them up and talking, and it's like, oh, well, that's my filmmaker that I walked with. So, yay. I think that anything that provides a creative outlet for somebody is I mean, it's always a good thing. It's always a positive thing. So it's a great event, and thank you for creating it. And
thanks for being a part of it.
My pleasure.
And same with you, Aaron.
Thank you.
And hey, listeners, stay tuned. Our next segment's coming right up.
Dun, dun, dun.
So we're going to share some clips here with you with participants who are actually coming to our film festival. Some of them are filmmakers and others are VIPs. All of them are going to come to San Diego for this film festival on April 28th and 29th, so you can come and meet them in person as well. But what I'll do is I'll add to the notes the link to their individual podcast episodes so that you can listen to the rest of their stories. This first clip is with Brian Hennings. He was in episode 16, and he was here in San Diego last year for our last film festival with a short film, Express, and he has submitted a new film which was accepted and will be participating in the film festival. The name of the film is Focus. I want to just read for listeners really quick, if you don't mind, that I read your synopsis.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. When her worldview is irreversibly changed, and every woman must struggle to overcome the way others now see her. So talk a little bit about, I mean, I don't want you to, I mean, it's not like it's a suspenseful film, you know, I don't want you to like explain your film. I do want people to come to the film festival and see it. But tell us a little bit about that because of the message and the story and how you put that together.
Yeah, I guess it's really hard to talk about a movie that's under 5 minutes long without talking a lot about what happens in the movie. But the idea, the basic theme behind this story is around how as individuals, things can happen to us that change us, and can change us in ways that are perceptible to others. So you've now not only had a change, but other people realize that there's been a change, and how while on one hand you have to personally deal with the changes that you're going through or experiencing, you also have to deal with other people's perceptions of you and the way that they may now treat you, and that kind of concept. I guess it's a little bit following on from Express and that idea of the interactions that we have with people and how important they are. So this again, I don't know why smartphone filmmaking works so well for this, but this is a personal story for me. Without giving away too much, it's based on a family member of mine and her life story. So it touches on some very real ideas and themes and experiences. And I don't know that I can really say much more without giving away
I
too
don't
much of
want you
what
to
happens.
say too much
Yeah.
more. But it is kind of like the concept. I'm listening to you, of course, and I'm thinking about how it's not just how someone perceives you. It's how it affects them. That
Yeah.
was I think I got that more. Our next guest is Miranda Mullings. She had just turned 12 years old. She was in our film festival last year at 11 years old, made a film with her iPhone. It was a stop motion film about bullying. And this year she made a youth horror film called Charlie. This podcast, episode 17, was with our brand ambassador, Erin Nabuz, and her father, Anthony De La Cruz, who was also a filmmaker last year with his own film. So, Miranda, what was this whole thing like? Remember, we were talking right before I turned on the mics on, but about what this experience was like for you to be in this first filmmaking film festival, the whole thing with your father.
I thought it was cool. Not many children get to do that with their fathers or their mothers. And just, I don't know. It was also fun because I have to have a competition. He was a rival.
Yeah, you were competing with him, kind of, right? Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
So,
were you like, nah, I'm gonna win, right?
No, I didn't think I would be like accepted.
When you submitted it, you mean?
Yeah.
How long did you? Oh, I'm sorry.
I mean, when you first turned the film into the film festival, or when, once it was there, you thought maybe you wouldn't win an award, or what? Because you did win an award.
Yeah, I did, but when he submitted it, I thought, yeah, I'm not gonna win this, and then I do win, and just, I'm shocked because I thought it was really bad.
Yeah. And if you wouldn't have, do you think it would have encouraged you to try it again better, or?
If it wouldn't have, I just would have continued with making more films as I am now.
Good for you. High five.
was a little bit creepy having everyone else asleep while we were making.
Everybody was
noise.
asleep in that film.
In the house, I guess.
Especially
Wow. With
one
the
part-
screams and
one part. My cousin had a scream,
yeah.
and she did scream. And my grandma, she came into the room. She's like, "What are you guys doing?"
I
Now,
love it.
now, is this a story that you developed right after, or how long did it take for you to come up with this story after the festival last year?
Like after the last year's
Submission, right?
awarding ceremony,
Oh, okay.
I decided to like write another one, and I wanted it to be horror since I was into horror at the time.
We're talking to a
I
12-year-old.
know, that's what I'm
horror
saying at the
films
time.
here.
That was years ago.
You know,
My horror phase.
Exactly.
well, it's like dog years for a kid, right?
Well,
it's like 1 year is a lot.
Yeah, it's crazy because, yeah, it's interesting that she's saying that, but it's kind of true because her next one is not horror. You're going to trip out, yeah.
Yeah, well, she's going to touch up on all the genres. You know what a genre is?
Yes, I
Okay.
do.
Wow. I'm like, I didn't even know what that was when I was your age. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So then your grandmother came in and she gave you stuff, and then, but you already had a script. You already knew what you were doing, and were you yelling cut and action and all that?
Well, we did action,
Yeah.
and we did cut. Right, we didn't have a script though.
Oh.
It wasn't much. There wasn't much dialogue in the movie, more action things. But if we were gonna do just dialogue, then we just made it up as we went. It was a very
Like improvised?
yeah.
That's pretty cool.
So how long did it take to film the whole thing?
About an hour and 30 minutes. That's why it's not very professional.
That's
I don't
actually,
know.
well, I know. I mean,
Now Anthony does production on his phone. How do you do yours? Do you do yours in phone or after post?
where did you
Wait,
edit?
Oh,
Where did I get it?
Where'd you edit?
I edited it on an app on my phone, and then I gave it to him. He did the sound and a little more editing, and then we submitted it.
So, because I do audio and music and composing and whatever, I have a library of music and whatever, so we don't have to mess with copyrighted stuff.
Right.
And so, to be honest with you, I really touch it. I try not to touch it at all. Her film, because I want it to be raw. I want it to be from her, and so all the editing of the film, it's her. All I do is kind of help with a little bit of the graphic stuff, graphics motion, kind of, like in the title and then the credit roll. And of course, I did the sound design and put the music on there. But essentially, I'm working with what she's already put together. I mean, I'm like any other editing would be done. The audio's done last, right? So that's kind of what I did.
So you used, what, is it Power Director? Is that what you used to use?
Yeah, I use
Okay.
Power Director. I love that app. It's so intuitive. It's so like, oh, you can't even. And they have a phone app that's so close to the real thing.
Yeah, you think you showed it to me.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. I did show this. Yeah. So, but basically, you can do kind of certain things there. But as I mentioned, she did all of her editing on her own phone. I mean, I go to computer. No, she did it all, and it's like, here's my film.
there are a lot of more people that actually do that. When it gets complicated, I think, is when it's very low lighting, when you have a lot of, like, you have crew and things like that, and you've got duct tape, you're putting props with duct tape or something, I don't know, things that are showing that you don't want to show. A lot of people are feeling more comfortable editing on the phone. If you're doing a big production, though, and you've got, the boom, with the microphone, that's like the stick with the microphone attached to it.
Yeah.
And you've got other cameras and lights, with the stands and things like that, and other crews standing around, then it can be hard to see on a small screen.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think for most people, they're okay with editing on the phone, for the most part. Especially if they're going to do something simple.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
I know. Our next guest is Prakash Gandhi Natarajan from episode 18. He was in our film festival in 2015 and is also going to be in our film festival here, attending in San Diego this year with a travel video called Italy. He was in our episode 18 podcast and shared some really cool tips with our listeners on how to make exceptional smartphone videos. And I thought that might be handy for some of you if you're traveling to San Diego to come to our film festival so that you too can create your own travel videos from the experience. It's going to be lots of fun this year having you with all the toys that you like to play with, you know?
Yes, thank
Yeah.
you. Yes, I'm looking forward to it also.
So, can you share just a little bit here? Because I know we're gonna share for our Patreon page in detail how to make some travel videos in more detail, right? But
Hmm.
maybe some basics for this podcast on what to consider when like spring break is going to come up soon, right?
Hmm.
So some of
Hmm.
our listeners are probably planning a trip to go to the spring break, and they'll want to do some travel videos. So instead of bringing their DSLRs or whatever, right? What would you recommend that the basics to get to make some travel videos with using their smartphones?
Sure. Like you said, yes, spring break is coming. Again, you don't want to carry a lot of equipments around. You want to travel light. So what I would say is like you can find in Amazon these mini tripods. So these mini tripod costs less than $15. So what it does is you don't need to hold your phone in your hand. You can just mount this phone on this mini tripod and you can leave it on the ground and then it will shoot whatever is right in front of it. I like these mini tripods a lot. The reason is there is something called time lapse where it's a video showing the time passing by in a quick seconds. So these are great for people walking around or sunsetting or in a beach. You just turn on time lapse on your phone. You don't even need to do anything. You have a camera button. If you keep scrolling, you will find portrait, square. It depends on the phone. It should be the same option. There is something called time lapse. So you just switch on the time lapse, start recording, and let it go for 5 minutes or 10 minutes and stop recording. And you will see this amazing footage of time passing by. And if there are people walking, if there is sun setting down, if there are waves, it's going to look beautiful. Or clouds, it's going to look amazing. Second thing, you don't want to carry anything. I just want to carry my phone. I don't want to carry even a tripod. It's still fine. Best thing to get non-shaky footage just with your hands and phone is keep both your hands right next to your hip or your tummy and then hold the phone. So you kind of use your body to balance the phone because when your hands are so freely hanging and then you're holding the phone, there is going to be this minor shake, which is going to get exaggerated when you put it on the big screen. So sometimes I don't have the time to mount my gimbal or tripod. I just pull the phone from my pocket and then if I have a chance, then I try to sit down in one spot. That gives me more stability. Or if I can't sit down, I have to stand up. Then I put my hands close to my tummy or close to my hip. Tuck both your hands in towards your body and then hold the phone. That makes a huge difference. Second thing, take as many wide landscape shots as possible. Shoot more. More footages are better than very few footages and you can't even put a film together. Second, take a lot of close-up. So if you're going to shoot only wide landscapes, it's going to get bored after a while. So you have to like switch back and forth between wide landscape and portrait mode, which is like put the camera right on face of people, on animals or things. Go close up, go tight shots. So if you can do all these tips, you can come up with some amazing travel videos because wherever you travel for spring break, the place is going to be beautiful. So you just capture it on your video.
Our next guest is Jason van Genderen. He comes from Sydney, Australia, to our film festival to premiere a keynote presentation on the movement Filmbreaker, which he founded. He's he was in episode 21, and this is a clip about when we talked with him in our podcast. It had only been maybe a day or two at the most since he launched the movement. I'm rubbing my hands together here. So there's this little thing that you did. I'm being sarcastic.
Yeah.
There's this huge thing that you launched. Was it? Well, okay. So Australians, for our audience, I'm in San Diego, and you're in the future.
Yeah, crazily. So I am. I'm a good. How many hours ahead of you am I?
You're like, I don't know, like 16 hours or something.
16.
I don't know. So
what do you want to know? Is there like a lottery or something? You want me to just give you some numbers?
No, what I want to know is so here I'm thinking it was the day before yesterday, right? In the evening here. But really it was just yesterday or something for you when you launched. Ta-da. Go ahead and tell everybody what you did.
Yeah. So look, it was, again, this feels like that same experimental moment that I had back in 2008. And I reached this position. I don't know about you, Susie. I find myself, I've worked in this industry now professionally for a long enough time to understand the way things generally work. And I'm still absolutely stunned, despite my whole body of work, all the things I've done, all the commercials that are airing on Australian television, all the things that I do, all of the great people I've got connectivity with. It still stuns me that every single time I walk into an event or an industry networking, blah, 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 and when someone asks me, what are you working on or what are you doing? And if I open up with that line of, so I've been working on this thing on my iPhone, and instantly it is like literally a nanosecond later, I can see people's eyes glazing over and going, you are not serious. You call yourself you make content, you make commercials, you make short films, but you're not even filming them on a camera. And the credibility thing just flies out the window. I might as well be standing sort of invisible at the back of the room, like a 14-year-old. It was just, I just found that complete disconnect really, really interesting. And I found myself defending smartphone filmography so much, and so much of my conversation when I go to these events is really exactly that. I can almost roll it out now like a script because I know exactly the things I need to say to get the conversation going. But it got me thinking that I knew that I wasn't the only one that was experiencing this. And the more that I started understanding festivals such as yours and meeting filmmakers from different nationalities and different parts of the world, I just really started feeling this overall urge that we needed to do something more, something new, and that there was people not just shooting cats and dogs videos for YouTube, that people were really shooting incredible stories that looked spectacular, that played out emotively and that moved an audience one way or another. And the fact that those people still struggled every single day to be recognized by their peers as being active contributors to the film industry staggered me. And even nowadays, when I've been winning a film festival or when I've had a film that was shot on a smartphone that actually did something surprising somewhere around the world, doing the media interviews afterwards, the conversations that get sparked by people saying like, so, wow, you really just shot this on a smartphone and you can do that these days and the quality is okay. And, we all know that the quality is there. We all know what our smartphones is capable of. And I found myself just really, to be honest, Susie, I just really started getting fed up with the fact that I felt like I was continually that emerging filmmaker kind of conversation. I felt like I was the work experience kid in every room that I went into. And I just really got sick of it. And at Christmas time, I was talking to my wife. I was just saying, look, it's really interesting when we think about the great cinema movements. And I started doing a little bit of research. And, a lot of people would be familiar with the Dogma cinematic movement back in 1995, which is really one of those revolutionary shifts and changes in filmmaking, where it was all about using ambient light and using limited props in your production and available sound, or not introducing production music over the top of a scene. There was a number of these different disciplines that kind of crafted together to form that ideology behind what a Dogma film was. And then I started looking at other film movements, and I thought, wow, this is a really interesting space. And then, the last, believe it or not, the last film movement that's been recognized broadly around the world was back in 2002. It was called Mumblecore. And at its heart, I think Mumblecore is sort of a deviation of what Dogma was about. I won't get into the theory of all of that now, but what I then looked at on this timeline was the fact that we've been looking at 16 years and there's been not a single new cinematic movement acknowledged in that time. And yet we've moved into this space where we have never seen as many cameras circulated amongst communities all around the world. We have never seen our culture and our civilization so abundant with storytelling. And so abundant with storytelling from surprising corners, from people that are armed with cameras, the unexpected tool, the smartphone camera. So then I started just raising it in conversation with people and saying, I think it's time we drew a line in the sand and tried to actually make something of this. And so, a couple of days ago, we put together an introductory video to sort of bounce this whole notion of a new cinematic movement, and we called it the Filmbreaker movement. And Filmbreaker, because I hated going into a room and saying, hey, when people say, what do you do? And I say, oh, I'm a filmmaker. And of course, the next question that comes out of their lips every single time is, so what films have you made that I know? And the chances are in any room, there'd be maybe one or two people that have seen something that I've made, because I'm not making the conventional films that the big blockbusters that people see on the screen. And so I hated defining my whole career based on that. So I invented this term Filmbreaker just purely because I still love making films, but I kind of break a few rules in the way that I make it. And I know that there's a lot of people around the world doing exactly the same thing. So we started this notion of a new cinematic movement called the Filmbreaker movement. We decided that maybe the best place to park that would be Facebook, because we thought most people would have access to Facebook. It was probably a quickest and simplest way to make a community based around this new movement. So we started a page, we put a video up, we released it in the world. We thankfully, through the help of some wonderful advocates such as yourself, helped us spread that message, shared that message, get that out there. And my aim was throughout 2018 to find 10,000 film breakers to help me found this new movement around the world. And that was going to be my whole endeavor this year, was to go out there and do that and donate my time and services to as many festivals that would have me, to come and run talks, to do workshops, to try and enlist people to join this particular movement. And the great shock and surprise, as much for you as it was for me and anyone, was the fact that in 24 hours we reached 10,000 people.
Yeah.
And it's been crazy. And it's every couple of days now, every day it's been ticking up another couple of thousand people. And it's just been, again, one of those beautifully humbling moments where I realized the connectivity that we all share, and the fact that there are so many of us out there in this world trying to create stories this way, all yearning for a focal point to put our stories, for a place where we can call home, a place where we can be educated, where we can be connected with each other, new technology, festivals, screening opportunities, career opportunities. I think there's a space that we can carve out of this that makes that happen for all of us. And that's really what we want this Filmbreaker movement to do, is create that unifying force, that new community, so that when you go out there and say, I make films on a smartphone, you don't feel like it's a career stain. You feel like you can wear it as a badge of honor. And that's really what I want to do with this movement, is to celebrate the tremendous work, the rich diversity of stories that we're now immersing ourselves in globally through wonderful festivals such as yours. We need to really make that happen. We need to celebrate it as a time and a marked point in space, in cinematic history. So I'm going for that. I want us, through people power, the first people-powered cinematic movement, hopefully in history, to join together and actually say, you know what, we're here, we're relevant, and we count for something, and we want to make our mark. And that's what this is all about.
Our next guest is Brian McLane from episode 7. He is coming to the film festival to give a lecture on shooting an entire mobile feature-length film with an iPhone. and how to work with the Screen Actors Guild. It's because of Brian McLane that Tim Russ, who plays Tuvok on the television series Star Trek Voyager, will be attending the film festival.
The Killer's Requiem. It's about a man, a loving father, a devoted son who spirals into madness when he becomes the subject of a bet between God and the devil.
Wow. Now that sounds pretty interesting already. And I want you to tell a little more about that in a minute here. But before I do that, I'm pretty excited about something. I know you're excited about your film and everything, but I'm pretty excited on our end because I haven't made this announcement yet, but I think we'll just use this platform to make the announcement officially that, well, first of all, that you shot your film using an iPhone. And you're going to, although you're not competing in the International Mobile Film Festival in San Diego in April, you are going to screen it there. And you're going to do a talk as a workshop presentation. And you're going to show, and where you're going to inform attendees how to make a mobile film with Hollywood actors.
That's correct. I can't think of a better place. I mean, it's home for me because you're right. We shot this on an iPhone 6s, which has a 4K camera setting, which there's a lot of dynamics that need to be understood by filmmakers with respect to it, the limitations as well as the advantages when there are many. But that was it. You know, we just did it unconventionally. There was a certain amount of serendipity involved. I think it was just supposed to happen.
Well, you know, one of the things, I mean, these aren't just any actors. I mean, in mobile filmmaking, we don't usually see many SAG actors, but these are, I mean, why don't you please name these actors, because it's pretty impressive, and I think some of the people listening are going to recognize some of these guys.
Well, we were incredibly fortunate. We got to start. We got Jean Beauvoir, who is a rock legend. I mean, when you have a guy that turns down Prince to be his bass player, wow. you have someone. I mean, Jean played. He cut his teeth with as one of the members of the very famous punk band, the Plasmatics. And then he went on to write for Kiss and the Ramones and Bruce Springsteen's E Street Band. I mean, he's been on basically about as high a level as you can go in music. And I know Jean simply through a mutual friend where we used to rehearse at the same rehearsal studio, and and this is something else that I would just say is, you know, my mother always said, you know, you have nothing to lose by asking because you have a 50% chance of a yes and a 50% chance of a no. So I, you know, because of Facebook, somehow I got in touch with him and I said, hey, you know, I'm doing this film. You know, you may remember me from, you know, the old studio, whatever. Are you interested? And he's doing stuff all the time, flying here and there. But, you know, it's one thing, you know, all rock stars and rock musicians, they want to be actors, and all actors, they want to be rock stars. And so we were very fortunate to get Jean very early on interested in the concept. You know, and he did the soundtracks for Stallone's, you know, different movies for, you know, 20, 30 years of this. So he knows the business, and he was very helpful in terms of also guiding, you know, how the production went. So he was a big get. Also, the second biggest get was Lloyd Kaufman, who everybody knows from Trauma. You know, even the other day we were having the movie poster finalized, and someone said, "Wait a second, is that Lloyd Kaufman, like as in Trauma?" And you know, I've gotten that. Maybe 50 times people have said to me, Lloyd Kaufman is in this film? And I said, yeah. Lloyd did Toxic Avenger, Class of Nukem High, a million.
And the funny thing is, see, it is a small world, isn't it? Because I met him a few years ago here in San Diego around one of the Comic Cons here at an event that was not a part of Comic Con, but at an event that was going on the side. I met him and his wife, and I told him about my film festival.
Yeah, and you know what? He knows about it now. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But Pat, his wife Pat, was the New York State Film Commissioner for like 20 years.
Wow.
So these people, they know film. I mean, Lloyd, started off, I don't know, back, with I think like Rocky and Saturday Night Fever and The Karate Kid.
Yeah.
And so that's how far back he goes. And he knows filmmaking and got a huge reach. But, a lot of the stuff that he did, he just did cameos. In this, he has a serious dramatic role. And he's got a big part. And, Lloyd in the beginning was like, no problem, Brian. I actually interviewed Lloyd. I had a cable show on Manhattan Neighborhood Network, a public access show back in the early 2000s. And he had just come out with a book called Make Your Own Damn Movie. And so I interviewed him, just much like, we're doing now, on my cable show. And, we've been in touch ever since. And when I said, I've got this part of this, a retired detective, would you be interested? And he said, yeah. So getting Lloyd was huge. And then we got Tim Russ from Star Trek Voyager and, a lot of other films and TV shows. And, Tim is fantastic. I mean, the guy is he's not just, he's just like the most professional person. He's all business, but he's so approachable. And he has seen it, going back from Star Trek and all the films. He goes back to doing Mel Brooks films. He was in, I think, Spaceballs. He's just a professional, and, you get the straight dope. Like, he'll tell you, that's too low light. You can't use that. His big thing was Tim, and that's the same thing with, by the way, all of these people. They would help me with the actual sort of, this is what you need to do. And Tim's whole thing was, look, if they are not absolutely, critical to the storyline, get rid of it. Because his whole thing is, you want to keep it as close as possible to moving the story along and not getting, off on tangents. And in fact, one of the earlier rough cuts, must have been over 2 hours. Now we have it down to like 89 minutes. And so, Tim has been a friend from the beginning. And, he agreed to be in the film. I was very lucky to catch them at the Paradise City Comic-Con, both Lloyd and Tim at the same time. So, some of the scenes that we got with them. And let me tell you, we did those scenes with Tim and Lloyd in between events that they had to be at. So we knocked that out in like an hour,
Wow.
an hour and a half. We got 3 different locations and sets, all within, walking distance of the hotel. And it was, and that's what you do. You just do it, and who else we had? George Hardy from Troll 2 and Best Worst Movie. George is probably best known to people as the dentist who, wanted to be an actor. Now he's like this icon, and a few others. We're just incredibly lucky to get real names. You look at these films on Redbox or maybe on Netflix or some other outlets, and you're like, I never heard of any of these people. And the distributors who were coming after me, they were like, we've done this and we've done that, and look at our library, we want to take you to the film market. And I'd say, yeah, it looks like
Well, that's it. That concludes this episode of the SBP podcast, The Voice of Mobile Film. The next time we expect to do our podcast will be during the film festival on the last day, when we plan to actually record in the green room of the film festival a very special podcast with the filmmakers and VIPs who come to the film festival. And in between now and that time, it may be a little quiet here at the SBP podcast studios, but that's okay. We're going to be very busy working on the film festival, and we hope to see you all there. And subscribe to our podcast so that you can be notified right away when the special podcast roundtable from the International Mobile Film Festival comes out.